What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to This Trick is Sick this week. Working on the old 49 Chevy, trying to get it finished up and wrapped up and taken care of for one of the local guys here in town. So I know we got to get back to this second episode here on This Trick is Sick with Palmer Power, building this engine, this little LS. We're going to show you guys how we Plastigauge, check the bearings, what bearings we use, and kind of give you the rundown on how to set this crank, ARP it, and get it geared up for the second phase. So also want to thank all my sponsors: Kevin Blumenthal, J&H Tire, Pete's Machine Shop, Brian Foster over there with MMA Max, the Amco boys. And we do appreciate each and every one of you guys along with Summit Racing. So thank you guys very much for everything. Thank you for all the sponsored stuff. You guys are next level. So anybody needs any work done by those guys, transmissions to machine work on their engines to their tires on their race cars, you guys hit us up, or if you know the guys, let them know. So they're about the best good old boys on this side of the state. So anyways, we're going to get to building that LS engine, get back to it. Also, just a little reminder before I cut out here and we get rolling, please remember, hit like, share, and you must subscribe to win the LS engine. We got the LS, it's one of these, probably going to be a 5.3. That's what we're thinking we're going to put together for you guys. So it'll be a freshened up 5.3, practically brand new motor, ready to rock and roll for one of you guys. It's all going to be painted up, ready to go. Probably a couple little performance mods done to it for one of you guys' street cars. So please make sure you also post some, some ideas on some future videos after all these engine building videos are done. Now also I've been asked to post some stuff with some old school motors. So I think we've got a guy bringing in a 388 stroker, basically 383. It's punched over I think 30 or 40 hours, something like that, maybe 60, I can't remember. But we will get with you guys and we will show you that build as well, probably right after this one. But we still want to hear your ideas, and we've always got our ears open and willing to learn, willing to listen. So anyways, thank you guys, and we'll get on to the motor. Thanks. All right, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to start this out. I've got the ARP bolts here from last week. I got my main caps. We're going to start getting the crank ready and whatnot. So the first thing that we need to do is get our Plastigauge out. Now I've already I do stuff a little bit more advanced. I've used dial bore gauge and a set of mics to test all my bearings and check everything, calipers and whatnot. So, but I'm going to show you an easy way that you can do it at home for the boys that don't have all that equipment. So you can buy this stuff called Plastigauge. Sealed power. You can get it from Summit Racing, Jegs, or any of these your local speed shops. So well, if there's any local around here, we're about the only ones around right now. But right now, the ones on the internet, you can get this different sizes and things that you need. So what we're going to be needing is 0.00250, I think that's it, 250 hundred thousandths of an inch, which is going to be a modified drag car or circle track engine. So which is going to be between your 500 to 900 horsepower cars. That's the clearances that we're going to be looking for, and I'm going to show you guys how to use this stuff. So it comes in a little package like this, and it actually splits open, and there's like a little, see that little green little hairline looking thing? That's what you're going to put on your bearings. So this is going to allow you to check your bearings, and then I'm going to show you a little tip and trick that I use to ensure that not only this is working, or if I made a mistake with my my gauges, my dial bore gauges, or my mic. Show you a little trick of the trade that I learned from a NASCAR guy that it just gives me a little bit of security that I did things right. So let's get to using this, and I'll show you guys how to use this. So First thing that we're going to talk about here is I'm going to go with a Molly main bearing for my crank. I don't have to have, now you got to make sure that whenever you take your crank to your machinist that you ask them about if you had it turned 10 or you know whatnot, to see what type of bearings that you need. If you do need that information from whoever did your machine work. Ours, it only did a light polishing, so our crank was good, and we're going to use the stock crank. A lot of people that's on the internet, they do know this, that the stock cranks in these LS's, they're good up to about 1,000 horsepower. There's some guys that push 12 to 1,400 through them. So we went with a set of aftermarket H-beam rods. I think it's H-beam, maybe I-beam. I think H, but we went with an aftermarket set of forged rods. We went with a set of forged pistons, and we're going with the stock crank. I've ran up to 800 to 1,000 horsepower on the stock crank. So we're gonna use the stock crank, and we'll be pulling that out here in a minute. So also something that I highly recommend. I did go with the H series on these Molly. On these Molly main bearings. I also went with the extra coating. These have like a tri-layer metal internally, but you can actually pay just a hair bit extra. I think it's like $4 to $5, and you can get them coated. So a lot of guys don't know that, but if you will look hard and heavy or request it from Summit Racing, they will lead you to the coated ones. So we got the coated ones. No clearance because the crank was just polished, so it's factory. So whenever we order these, we just order no clearance, factory setting. But we're going to go ahead and test this with the Plastigauge, and we're going to show you the Plastigauge. Also, I need to show you the crank right quick. Now, here's the crank, and what I needed to show you guys, I'll be very careful here. And we're going to clean. Remember, cleanliness is a big deal. So we're going to clean the crank. We're going to clean all where the main bearings go, and where the rods go. We're going to clean those journals. You need to make sure that what year and how many notches this reluctor wheel has. It could have 32. It could have, there's different numbers. I forget. I'd have to do a little bit, look at my book. But there, the newer ones have more notches. The older ones have less. The only good thing is, if you do order an MSD ignition for the LS engines, make sure, I highly recommend to order the one that will do either or, and will pick up either one. The older MSD ignitions, or some of them, will only pick up like a 32 notch reluctor wheel. This is called a reluctor wheel right here. This is what your timing runs off of. So you have to specify on some of these ignitions exactly the year of the reluctor wheel, how many notches it's got. But I've been ordering the MSD control boxes that actually will do any of them. And you can order that. So it don't cost you any extra money or anything. I would highly recommend that when you do order the ignition system, order the one from MSD that will do any reluctor wheel any year. So very, very highly recommend that. And that was something that I had to research and dig into. And like I said, let me get this cleaned up. Let me get these wiped down a little bit. And we're going to put the bearings in dry. And then we're going to put the Plastigauge on here. And we're going to torque everything down to spec. One other thing, whenever you're using the Plastigauge and you're wanting to check just these LS engines, you only have to torque down these main caps. Also, remember, because I'm using aftermarket ARP rod bolts, you can do torque specs. You don't have to do the angle gauge that Chevrolet does from the factory. Now, if you're building a factory LS, you have to purchase that little angle degree wheel that goes on your torque wrench, or you can buy a digital torque wrench, but those are extremely expensive. I would just get the little gauge for $80-90 from Snap-on. I will show you that option too here in a little bit. But I wanted you to know that that's why I'm torquing it, is because it's ARP stuff. Now, trying to make sure I remember everything. Keep in mind, cleanliness, we're going to plastic gauge, we're going to torque everything down, and we're using a stock crank because of the high horsepower ratings. So, all right, guys, let me get to cleaning. Thank you.
They said, don't fall, don't forget all the things you've been taught, you've been told. Don't blink, don't run, don't turn left or turn right or look straight at the sun. My mind's going in circles, I'm trying to fight it, getting these voices inside to stay quiet, going to the place where all this...
All right, now we're ready to, now that we've got the crank clean, we've got all the main caps and the main bearing areas, you'll want to put these things in dry. Also, you want to make sure that you get, you know, the side that the hole's on, that's the side that you want to make sure that you put your main bearings. So your holes will go down, your non-holes will be up. So basically your non-hole bearings like this will be on your caps, okay? And the ones with holes will be on the block side. So we're going to put everything in dry, and whenever I put these on here in just a second, you're going to see me cut a little strip of Plastigauge. That Plastigauge I told you. And we're needing the 250 hundred thousandths of an inch to 275 hundred thousandths. So that's kind of the clearance that you're needing to have on your Plastigauge, if you didn't know, for a race engine. So and that's my recommendations. Everybody else has their way of doing it. So we're going to double check our bearings, and then I'll stick the Plastigauge on. We'll put the main caps on with the bearing, everything dry. We'll tighten down all the middle. Remember, you don't have to put the little bolts on the outside edge. It does not affect the Plastigauge. So we'll torque everything down to spec according to ARP. It's probably somewhere around 75 foot-pounds, I think. And we'll torque everything down, and then we'll untorque everything, take everything back out, pull the caps off, pull the crank, and we will take a look at the Plastigauge to make sure that our bearing clearance is correct. Then once we know that our bearing clearance is correct, then we will do, you know, final assembly of the crank. We'll actually start lubing everything up, and I'll give all my recommendations of that stuff, and we'll show you some tips and tricks there. So, all right, let me get to it, guys.
Start again. Oh, you won't see the light until the dawn breaks. No, till it's all said and done.
Now, take your Plastigauge that you got here. You open her up. And what I do is about the width of your crank right here, like little pieces. I cut me little pieces. And you take that little piece and you just put it right on top, right on the middle. And then I'll cut me another one, and so on and so forth. And I'll cut me a bunch of little pieces. And what I'll do is I'll put it down in there to double check all my bearing clearances. See it right there? Right there. Right there. It's on every bearing. Then when you put your cap on, that's going to press down on it and give you a reading. And you keep that little piece of paper that you had that was holding it, the little holder, and it's got numbers on it, and it'll tell you your clearance. You just match it up. Okay, like I said, you do not have to have these end bolts that will torque to 22 foot-pounds of torque, the little ones, while you're doing the Plastigauge. We're going to do we're going to do only the main cap bolts that are here on top with the ARP. ARP calls for the inners to be at 60 foot-pounds, and it calls for the outside to be at 50. So what we're going to do is there is a tightening sequence that they request that we do, and you start here in the middle and you work your way out, kind of like heads. And what I do is I start at about 20 foot-pounds. Got that. And then I come to the next set. But you start in the center. And you only do the center bolts. These ones here down the middle. And then you jump to the other side. I don't go all the way. The way that I do it is I will jump back near the middle, and I will go ahead and get these going. And you do need to tune it back down to 20 to 25. Remember, the outside's 50. And I just do this to get them kind of started. I don't even get near the final torque, because once you get through that, then I go through the whole sequence of everything. Everybody has their way of doing it. This is the way I do it. This is the way I was taught. And then I'll add my 15. And I'll go on up to my 60. And then I will dial it back down to 50, because that's the outside recommendations. Start over, because actually it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good to go. Now we're all torqued. Well, you see that you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Start back over and go so on and so forth. But like I said, inside 60, outside's 50. Now we're going to take everything back off and we're going to check out the plastic gauge.
Until you break down. Break down. Until you break down.
I think you can see our mark. See it right there? Looking good. Got a mark on every single one of them. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they're looking good. Okay. And then what you do is you take your clearance and you see kind of where you are at. You got to make sure. See this side? It's millimeters. Flip it over. This one's in inches. I like to go in inches. Most people in the United States do like to do the inches. And if you will, let me see if I can get it here. As you can see, you basically want to look at your line, and you will match it up with these numbers. So you'll look at your, what mark you made after you did your torque, and then you'll make your mark. But you got to know kind of where you're at or where you want to be. So what I told you was where we'd like to be is the 0.0025 to 0.00275, which is 250 hundred thousandths to 275 hundred thousandths, and it's this mark right here, and we were dead on. So this was perfect. This was perfect for us. So anyways, all right, we're going to get back to it, guys. Okay, as you guys can see, the plastic gauge worked great. The little mark, you just match up here after you get your caps off. Everything looks good, so we're good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pull the crank out. I'm going to wipe off the little marks because you know me and the cleanliness thing. And then we're going to lube everything up with a Comp Cams product. It's an assembly lube. Let me grab it. It's right here, number 104 engine assembly lube. You can buy it in little tubes like this. Now a lot of guys, they like to use basic engine oil and whatnot. I don't. I just don't. That's not what I break it in with. This has extra zinc in it and whatnot, and it's like a creamy, cream looking color. And what I do is I give a generous lubing, probably way overkill. So I'll lube up every bearing, and then I'll set the crank down in it, and I'll lube up the top side of the bearings as well. I'll stick them on, and then we're gonna do our sequence like what I told you, and the sequence also applies to the outside parameter as well. We'll be doing the outside parameter at 22 foot-pounds. The inside will be at 60, and the outside ARP bolts will be at 50. So we're going to get to it. We're going to get everything lubed up, get everything put in. I'll get everything torqued, and should be good to go. So you guys just follow along. Thank you.
They said, be meek. Look beneath the bed before you go to sleep. Keep on our shine. We'll surely get burned if you reach out and touch my mind.
Alright guys, I got the main caps kind of in position. Went ahead and ran just the bolts kind of down. Nothing's really tight. Went ahead and put the side bolts in. Those will be last, but what we're going to do now, after we got everything lubed up and got the mains on, you're going to torque these middle ones, like I said, in sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then start over on the outside ones. Remember, the inside ones are 60 foot-pounds. The outside is 50. These on the side are 22 foot-pounds. So just letting you guys know whenever you're watching in the camera, if it's going fast or whatever, just to show how we're doing it. That's what we're doing, and we're doing in sequence. Now, one last thing. These outside ones, I don't do those until the very end. So I go ahead and torque these, the center ones. Then I do the outside ones, and I keep doing them until I get them up to where they're, at the 60 and the 50. And whenever I'm finally done, then I'll do the 22 foot-pounds. Now, there is no sequence that I know of that Chevrolet requires or anybody talks about for these right here. What I generally do is I'll torque one, and then I'll come over and do the opposite side. That's how I kind of like to do it. I just kind of work my way through. And the reason why I do those last, because I feel like that if I go ahead and torque them while I'm torquing these, it may flare up and hold the ends a little. I don't know. It's just theory. Just me being picky. So it's just my way of doing it. But anyways, let's get to finishing this thing up. Something I forgot to tell you. Also keep in mind that I did apply the ARP Ultra Torque to all the ARP bolts. The side bolts, they're technically saying they want 20. I go 20 to 22. But you want to put this on every single bolt or fastener that deals with ARP so that you get a true setting, and do just a very light, little coat around it and everything. ARP has this, and you, like I said, you put it on every bolt before you torque it on your final assembly. Also, remember sequence. Start out at 15 to 20 pounds, foot-pounds, and then add 10 to 15. Some people like to do 5, 5, 5, and do it in so many. I do it around 10 to 15 increments until I get up to the 60 on the inside, the 50 on the outside, and then I'll do the 20. So just letting you guys know that sequence. I'm trying to make sure that I got everything covered for you guys, because a lot of times I'm not thinking I've already done it so many times. So, okay, any questions, make sure to post them. But anyways, thanks guys.
I'm trying to hide it, getting these voices inside to stay quiet. Going to the place where all this began. Start again. I'll see the light until the dawn breaks. No, till it's all said and done, you won't know what it takes. Gotta make a wrong turn and turn around. Gotta fall first to pick yourself up off the ground. Until you get lost, you'll never be found. And you can't start again until you break down.
Alright guys, thank y'all for tuning in to This Trick is Sick this week. You seen we put the crank in, we got the main bearings, gave you our recommendations, showed you how to tighten everything down. Torque specs, what we kind of like to use, how to double check at home with the Plastigauge and whatnot. Thank you Kevin Blumenthal, thank you MMA Max, Summit Racing, Ampco Electric Boys, J&H Tire and Pete's Machine Shop. Thank you all, and thank you all to our subscribers. If you guys would, please hit like, subscribe, and make a comment if you want to be eligible to be in the drawing for the LS engine. And we will be giving away a 5.3 LS, and it will be a fresh and brand new motor ready to go for you. So we will be having the drawing probably the first part of next month. Well, not August. It'll probably be right around September, and we will review all of the 8 episodes, make sure that we write down everything, and then we'll have we may have a live drawing. I don't know. So that way everybody tunes in and checks it out and everything, because I think you can do that on YouTube. I think my daughter said so. But anyways, thank you guys again for everything, and stay tuned next week for the rods and the pistons and rings, and let's get this thing together. Okay, thanks guys. Have a good week.